They called me unstable while I was lying there, barely able to breathe. I remember the bright hospital lights above me, too white, too sharp, like they were exposing every crack inside me. My hands were trembling, my body stitched together after what should have been a simple accident. But the real pain wasn't physical. It was the voices around me. "She's overreacting again," my mother whispered, just loud enough for the nurse to hear. "She always does this," my father added, his tone calm, almost rehearsed. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, wondering how my own parents could sound so distant, so cold, as if I wasn't their daughter, but a problem they were tired of explaining. I wanted to speak. I wanted to tell them I wasn't pretending, that the pain was real, that the fear was real, but my voice felt trapped somewhere deep inside me. That wasn't the first time they had said it. Unstable. That word had followed me for years. Every time I cried too much, every time I questioned them, every time something didn't feel right, and slowly, I started to believe them. Maybe I was too sensitive. Maybe I was the problem. But what I didn't know that day, lying on that hospital bed, with stitches still fresh and my heart breaking quietly, was that everything was about to change. Because someone was watching. Someone who didn't see me as unstable, but as someone who had been silenced for far too long. And in just 90 seconds, the truth I had been forced to carry alone would finally come to light. MID, conflict and betrayal. Growing up, I was always the difficult child in my family. Not because I caused trouble, but because I asked questions. Why does everything have to be your way? I once asked my father. His response was simple. Because I said so. And if I didn't stay quiet after that, things would get worse. My mother would step in, not to protect me, but to protect the image of our perfect family. "She's just emotional," she would tell relatives with a polite smile. "She imagines things," and just like that, my voice would disappear in a room full of people. Over time, their words became louder than my reality. When I struggled in school, I was unstable. When I tried to stand up for myself, I was disrespectful. When I cried, I was too much. It wasn't just labels. It was control. They shaped the way people saw me. Teachers, relatives, even friends. They all started looking at me like I was fragile, unreliable, someone whose words couldn't be trusted. And the worst part, I started seeing myself that way too. Until the day everything went wrong, that accident. It wasn't just bad luck. I had been driving home after another argument with my parents. My hands were shaking, my mind racing with their words echoing inside me. "You ruin everything. Why can't you just be normal?" I wasn't thinking clearly. I missed a turn, and everything blurred into chaos. When I woke up in the hospital, I thought maybe this would change something. Maybe they would finally see me. But instead, they stood there, repeating the same story. "She's unstable," except this time, someone else heard it. A hospital security officer had been standing near the door. At first, I didn't notice him, but later, I realized he had been observing everything, not just their words, but their behavior. The way my mother avoided eye contact, the way my father spoke over me. Even when I tried to respond, something didn't add up, and for the first time in my life, someone questioned them. Within 90 seconds, more staff entered the room. Calm, professional, but firm. "We need to speak with you outside," one of them said to my parents. I remember the look on my father's face. Confusion, mixed with something else, fear. That was the moment I realized. Maybe I wasn't the one who was unstable. Maybe I had just been made to feel that way. Ending, revenge, climax and morale. What happened next didn't feel real at first. For years, I had been the one defending myself, explaining myself, doubting myself. But now, the focus had shifted. The hospital staff asked me questions gently, not like they expected me to be wrong. but like they genuinely wanted to understand. When did this start? Has this happened before? And for the first time, I answered honestly. Not through fear, not through hesitation, just truth. Outside the room, I could hear raised voices. My parents trying to maintain control, trying to explain things the way they always had. But this time, it wasn't working. Because there were witnesses. Because there were patterns. Because the truth, once spoken out loud, refused to go back into silence. In the days that followed, things moved quickly. Reports were filed. Conversations were documented. People who had once believed my parents' version of me started seeing something different. Not an unstable girl, but a girl who had been unheard. My parents didn't face some dramatic, instant punishment. Real life doesn't always work that way. But they lost something far more important. Control. The narrative they had built around me, the image they had carefully protected, began to fall apart. And me? I started rebuilding something I had lost a long time ago. Myself. It wasn't easy. Healing never is. There were days I still heard their voices in my head, still questioned my own feelings. But slowly, I learned to trust myself again, to feel without guilt, to speak without fear, to exist without apologizing. And that was my real revenge. Not hurting them, but refusing to stay broken. Now, when I think back to that moment, lying under those harsh hospital lights, I don't see weakness anymore. I see the beginning of something, the moment everything changed. Because sometimes, the people who call you unstable are the ones afraid of your truth. And once that truth is seen, it doesn't just shock others, it sets you free.